So we're going to start on the left hand side of the tree, and we're going to put a pin in for the 2 workers, or the 2 pairs of which the left hand pair will be the worker pair, and put 2 twists on. So we're going to then hang on 2 pairs on the next 3 pins in the same manner, and we'll work from the left hand side across to the 5th pin, and we'll then just work this in cloth stitch backwards and forwards. We will need to reduce the pairs 1, maybe 2 at this point. I think it was 1 I threw out, just to get it round this bit. If you put in a glitter thread in, it will be added at this point here to go in both directions, and then we'll add the pairs in as well. So that's just a quick brief outline of how we're going to start. Hanging 2 pairs on each of these these pins to get started, and each time putting 2 twists on. So that's got the pairs all on, and then just work from the left hand side all the way across those in cloth stitch. So backwards and forwards, just to work this little tree stump, or the tree trunk. You see now that's got that little bit narrower after the first row, so we don't need an extra pair in there. If you could put an extra pair in at that point on the first row, but by the second row you'd be throwing it out. So this is a fun piece. It's not going to be an exhibition piece that's going to be around in 100 years' time. It's a fun piece for Christmas. So occasionally like that, I'm not quite so critical about adding pairs in. Whereas normally if it was a flower and I felt it needed 1 for 2 rows, then I would add it in for 2 rows. Now I've been backwards and forwards, I've got 3 pins on each side, and at this point it's getting quite dense, so I'm going to throw the first pair out, and I'm probably going to throw out 2 pairs before I go towards the bottom where it joins the actual tree. So probably 2 more rows and throw the second one out. I couldn't remember exactly how many pairs I've thrown out during it. You know, I do work so many patterns, and if I don't make notes of exactly how many pairs I've thrown out, I work instinctively rather than by pin instructions. I try to get my students doing that as well, to watch and see what's happening and react, rather than at this pin you must put in or you must throw out. Because it helps you develop the understanding of the lace. Right, I'll throw the second pair out there. So I've got I've got 6 pairs left. Okay, so when we come across here, I'm now going to be getting to the point where I'm going to be dropping the glitter threads for the edge in a moment. I think I'll do one more row across to the right, and then we'll put those in. Okay, so you can see, although the trunk went down quite narrow, now it's opening out again. Those number of pairs are actually filling it quite well. So I've got 6 pairs in there. I'm going to put a pair of my glitter and my metallic threads in, and I'm going to put them in as if they were a gimp, just passing them through to get them through all of these pairs. So I'm just going to hang them on a temporary pin, and I'm just literally going to pass them through these pairs, picking up the left of each pair and passing those 2 through, just to get them in the position horizontally that I want. So now I've got 3 pairs, I've got 6 pairs in total. I'm going to have 2 pairs of passives for each direction. So I've left my worker over on the right. I'm going to work through 2 pairs, and the third one will become the second worker. So I meet with the third one, cloth stitch and twist on both, 1 twist on both, cover it. The right hand one will now go to be the worker for the right, and the left hand one will go to the left hand side. Now I'm going to work a little bit over here to get the pairs in for the trail, so that we can then come over to the left and do that little bit of area over here. So I'm putting pairs in. I'm putting two lots of plaits in to start this one off. So 2 pairs added in there, 2 pairs added in, well, there'll be 4 pairs added here because I've got a plait coming out as well. And then work across here, adding 2 at each of the lines for the plaits until we get right over to here. and then we'll look at the half stitch spots and the beads once we get that far. Just keep adding the pairs in. If you need a refresher on that, in Bedfordshire we add 2 pairs on by hanging them on a temporary pin in open formation, rainbow style, or astride the pin like that, and we just cloth stitch through the first pair. Put the twists on and the pin up, and this ensures the pairs you're adding in are around the back of that pin and completely secure for tensioning. Now when you come to these trails that are meandering through the tree, don't forget, if you're actually putting a glitter thread in like I did, one of the pairs has got to be a glitter thread along with a normal one. So the next one, let's have a look. No, I'll put the glitter one on the second plait coming in on this right hand side. So there'll be 2 plain ones here and a glitter and a main colour on the second one. Because I'm looking at this thinking the first pin in that actual trail will be here, so this will need to be where the worker starts, and so the worker needs to come from this pin. So because that's a plait, I would then straight away plait that one, just to pull it up round there. So this one is a plait as well, and then I'm going to continue to work adding them on the left hand side. I'm having trouble with the rights and lefts today. Now at the start here as well, you may need to work a back stitch, use a pin twice just to level it up on this side. So you can either do it on the one you've already done there or on the next one. I think I'll do it on this one I've already used. And just take it out, put it under the pin and tension it up. So for each plait I'm just going to hang them on a temporary pin and work through the first of the 2 pairs, and this ensures that they're actually secure in the trail, and it makes it much more secure when you're tensioning them doing the plaits. You don't get any disruption of the trailing. I'm going to work all the way along to the point before I do anything else. Now you could always do picots on the edge of the tree if you really wanted to make it look a bit more tree-like, and fronds of the leaf pads, depending on how realistic you want your tree to be. So the next one I'm adding 4 in because I've got 2 plaits coming out at the same point. So you'll add 4 on a temporary pin, and again work through half of them, work through the first 2 pairs. Once we get to the corner of the widest part of the tree, we can then start having some fun with half stitch circles, half stitch buds and beads, which is the fun bit. Once I've got all of these pairs in, then I'll do the plaits all in one go, and then we can get started on a spot, or bud as they're officially known. Pillow's starting to get quite crowded now. All these pairs of bobbins, I've probably got another 2, 4, 6, 8 pairs to get in, and then we can start on doing some of the buds. And then once you get around the corner, you're actually starting to throw pairs out, which does reduce a few of them. getting working all of the plaits across here so that we can then get on with doing the little buds, lengthening them as I go as well, just tidying the pillow up a little bit. I shall work all the plaits before I start on the buds and start putting the beads in. And I think once you've done all the plaits as well, it seems to tidy the pillow up because they're a lot more compact at the moment. All of these threads feel as though they're all untidy and all over the place. And where I've got two plaits doing a windmill crossing, I can do those as I go as well, like this one here. So I'll do this plait and I'll do the windmill crossing, which is just a cloth stitch working with each pair as if they were a single, and putting the pin in before the last move, before the last cross or the last 2 over 3 move, depending on which way you learn. So I'm doing the windmill crossing there and putting the pin in, and then they'll be ready for the buds as well by doing this as I go. And then I'll start this first spot. I'm going to get the first bead out ready, so it's ready at the side of me. 2 there, I need 3 because I've got 3 spots to do it in this little area. I'll get 3 out ready. And I'm using a block pillow, so they're sitting quite nicely at the side of the block without rolling away, which is always helpful. I'm just using a little crease in the block, a little join to keep them there. So I'm going to start these spots. Now quite often when I do a 6 pin bud, I will do them in the way that the old lace makers did, with putting a pin at the end, working them through it like half a spider and then back out into plaits. But because I'm putting a bead in this, I'm actually going to do these as half stitch, which is something that I don't very often do, but it makes it so much easier for adding the beads. And I'm just going to have a quick look. Yes, I did do them as half stitch. I couldn't remember if I'd done them as half stitch or not. So pin in between the top plait pairs and half stitch. Decide which way you want to go. I'm going to the left first on mine. Doesn't make a lot of difference. And half stitch taking the plaits in, and I put an extra twist on at the end of the row to go around the pin. Now you can do a double half stitch at the end of the row if you want, just make it a little bit firmer, but because it's such a small spot, I'm actually just going to put the extra twist on. And then I'm going to put the bead right in the middle of this, so we find the middle 2, and I'm going to put them on the 2 bobbins right in the centre. So you're using a thread from 2 different pairs to push it on. I'm using a Lazy Susan, but you can use a crochet hook. So I put the bead on the Lazy Susan, pull the loop up, put one of the bobbins through that loop on the Lazy Susan. So put the bobbin through that, get hold of the end of the Lazy Susan and pull the thread up. get hold of the bead between your finger and thumb and just pull it onto the thread. Get hold of the loop, take the lazy Susan out and put the bobbin from the opposite side through the loop. And of course I've picked one with a long spangle on, which is not the easiest. And then just pull it into position. And there you have it suspended. Now because I've used pairs that are not together, I've used one from each side, you will need to put a twist back on to be in the half stitch and then continue your half stitch spot. And you can actually see these beads a bit better than the original as well. And then just continue the spot, leaving pairs out at the 3 pinholes to finish it into the plaits. Your beads do need to be quite small. I did say delicas on the pattern. These aren't delicas, but they are very small seed beads I'm using, just because I like the gold colour. But you can see now that that's sitting in there in the spot. Doesn't seem to quite focus as much when it's close up like that. It's sitting on top of the half stitch. I think it's quite difficult to focus. It focuses on the pinheads sometimes. So then you just do the plaits to finish it off. And that's that spot done. So you can see it in there, sitting on top of the half stitch. Now a friend of mine was going to do one of these for, I think it was for a mum for Christmas. She was going to mix up a load of different coloured delicas, so she got a different bead on colour on each one of these. So they were like the old-fashioned baubles of all different colours on a tree, which I thought was quite a nice idea. So I'm going to go with a classy gold right through, hopefully. And then we'll come on to the next one over here, and we've got 2 more we can do. Then we can bring the outside line down, and then we have to bring the trail across, and we're taking pairs in on one side, on the top side, and pairs are dropping out below for the next row of baubles. So that's the 3 plaits in, find the middle 2 bobbins, put the bead on the lazy Susan or the crochet hook. Crochet hook works just as well, but it's what you're used to. I find the crochet hook, it's very easy to split the, put one bobbin through the loop, pull it up, pull the bead onto the thread, take lazy Susan out, and the second bobbin through it. And it doesn't matter if you use the left or the right to go through the bead first, because when you pull it up it pulls it in place. And then put the twist back onto the pairs that you've used, and then continue to half stitch to finish the spot. And leave the pairs out at the the 3 plaits. And then they go straight into the plaits, and then you've got to do these plaits before you can do the next little spot with a windmill crossing as well. And you do have to actually bring this outside trail back down, because this pair and the one that's coming across from the windmill go in and one pair drops out, and you will be left with 2 extra pairs in the trail to start throwing pairs out. So they didn't stay in long, did they? This one's a windmill crossing again. So then I'll bring the edging down, take those pairs in, leave them back out, ready for the next spot and the next bead. So I'm now going to work this trail, bring it down this side so that I can actually work the 3rd spot on this side next. In the corner here you will have to use that pinhole twice as well, and you may have to use the next one twice because it's quite a sharp right hand turn, so often you have to use the inside pin a couple of times. So I'm going to come across and I'm going to take 2 pairs in, 2 plaits in at this next pin. That little bead's getting in the way. So we take the first pair in as if they're a single, so you do 1 cloth stitch to take the first plait in and a single cloth stitch to take the second pair in. When you put the pin up, you'll leave 2 pairs out for another plait to come back to this bud. And 2 pairs from the first plait will stay in the trail, and then you start throwing pairs out to keep the trail down to the 3 pairs of passives. But obviously not throwing the pairs out that have just come into the trail. So because you've got the glitter threads which we're not going to be thrown out, you need to just work it a little bit further for the second pair coming out. So that's going to be a plait going across there. I'll look at these pairs of bobbins. I know these 2 have just come in, so I can throw a pair out from this one, from the 2 existing ones, which leaves me 1 pair of the existing white. So when I come to do the next row, I will be throwing one of the new ones out and I don't want that, so I'll do an extra couple of rows before I throw the second one out, just to make sure that one that's being thrown out is held in securely, whereas normally I would throw it out straight away on the second row. And it's just a little bit of an adjustment to allow for the fact it's only just come out. You can carry one extra pair like that without any problems at all, but I would work it probably as far as this next plait coming in before I throw the second pair out, just to make sure it's held in securely. And now I can work this third bud in the same way. Bead in again on the Lazy Susan, and the middle 2 bobbins. Put the bead on the first one, and pass the second bobbin through that loop. And put the twist back on. Now if you were using delicas, they probably wouldn't sit quite as proud as these beads. With these being a little bit bigger and rounder, they will sit much flatter on the lace, but that may be the effect you want. You can actually get something like 24 carat gold beads, gold delicas. I bought a few some years ago and they were very expensive, the tiniest number, but if you've got a piece you really wanted to make it sparkle and put very special beads on it, you could do that. I think they came originally with a kit, and then I bought some more for something else. And got the tiniest amount for quite expensive. So now you can see that these plaits are going to be going into this trail, this one and this one. And then when you bring the other trail across, you'll be losing those into the trail. So all of these pairs are going to be thrown out. The what trail will be coming in and being thrown out. The second trail will also come in at this point and be thrown out. So you're going to lose quite a few bobbins here before you get any further, which means that you won't have quite so many on the pillow. So now I just need to bring the trail across and pick up all of those pairs and drop them through into the next area. So every time I'm adding them in, I'm just starting them in the same way as I've done right the way through this piece. Added 2 in, and I'm also going to leave 2 out from the trail, which has currently got 5 pairs in. And that's the 2 plaits coming out. And the next pin has another 2 pairs coming in from a plait. So this is taking in all of your plaits you've done on the first section of the tree and leave them out for the next section. Now again here you're going to have 2 plaits coming out, but you've only got 1 in at this point extra in here, so you're going to have to put 2 more pairs in, but you're going to have some more coming in shortly. It's all the ins and outs at the moment. But a nice easy bit of cloth stitch at the moment. So this is where the pattern eats up a lot of pairs of bobbins, just to stay in for a relatively short time. And when you get to the end of this trail, you want to be down to 3 pairs plus your worker to finish with 2 plaits, which will go in the edge trail and then be thrown out. So now it feels like you've got a lot in, because I've got 7 in, but then I've got 2 plaits coming out on the right hand side of the trail quite quickly. The next 2 pins there'll be a plait out of each, so that'll take you back down to the 3 again. So we've got this little trail that's coming off here. I'm going to leave 2 pairs out at the first pin, and then the second one I'll add the gold worker pair and leave the second one out as well. 6 in the trail, so 3 to come out will leave me 3 passives in there. So those are the first 2 to come out. The gold pair in for the worker for this last little trail. I'll leave that out with 1 passive. And then that's going to come into this trail there, so we'll leave that one and come back over here. And the pairs left out to go in the trail, just a tiny little plait for the first hole, to the first hole of the trail, and then a pin underneath the worker to start the trail. Now I will have to bring the side down a little bit to be able to get this last plait in on the left hand side. I'll get this trail across first. And there'll be enough pairs in the edge trail to come across for that plait. Hopefully we've finished adding them in now. So I'm just going to come across here, and then I'm going to bring both trails down both sides so that we can do the last little bit. At this point I could do a backstitch if I wanted, just to level it up here. Sometimes again, if you plan ahead, you can do that. Let's do that and see if that helps us. So you take the pin out and just put it underneath the worker, hold the passive on the inside and tension it up, and that has levelled it up a little bit. And then I'm taking this plait in, and also in doing that it means that this plait comes in before you're leaving them out, which cuts down the need to add pairs in, which is always very helpful when you're getting towards the end and you're trying to avoid adding extra pairs in. That now gives me 5 passives in there, and I can comfortably leave 2 pairs out for the plait. Whereas if I hadn't done that back stitch, I wouldn't have had the pairs in there to be able to do that. Those 2 pairs left out. I've still got my 3 pairs of passives. Keep that trail nice and consistent. And again, by doing that back stitch in the middle of that row, I've got this one coming in before I need to leave the next plait out, which again helps me. Now I've still got two pins on the left side and only one on the right, so I'll now have to do a back stitch on the right, whereas if I hadn't done that back stitch in the middle to help me out with the placement of the plaits, then I may not have needed the back stitch at all, but it would have meant putting 2 pairs in. So it does help sometimes in certain situations. The alternative is, because that last pinhole is so tight to the outside trail, you could just ignore it. You don't have to use every pinhole if it looks and improves the look of the lace by missing that one pinhole out. I've no idea what I did on the original. I could look back at that, but I've no idea what I did without checking. The alternative is, because you've got the 2 there now ready to leave out, you could just work through that first one and put the pin under there and then take it to the outside edge, and again that would work. That would use the pinhole quite comfortably. Put your pairs in the right position rather than putting an extra row in there, and I think that's probably the answer to that. So I'm now ready to do this spot. Oh no, I'm not. I've got the other bit over there to do before I can do that spot. I'll do these plaits as I come back across, and then I can do the last beaded bud. And don't forget, if you're an absolute lover of traditional Bedfordshire, you can do these as raised and rolled tallies if you really wanted a little bit more traditional looking piece. So just come back over to the outside edge. I'm going to bring this trail down to get this last pair in. I'm going to work that pinhole. Let's put that pinhole in next, because I'm not quite there. So I'm going to come across, and I need 2 for that plait, so I'll put 2 in. And here was me thinking I'd got them all in at this point without adding any more. So as you've added them straight, or you know, all the way through this piece, just hang them out in formation and cloth stitch the first one. And that gives you the plait. And then all you need to do is just a plait, so the 2 pairs that are left with your worker and your 1 passive, as far as the edge. That's there. And the last spot to be done. Half stitch from the centre, across to the left, back to the right to take in the last plait. Then put your bead in. I was nearly ready to go across and not put the bead in. A bead in place, put the twists back on, finish the spot. So that's the last spot finished. I've just now got to bring the outside edge ones down. Now on this last bit, you'll notice the plait finishes as a pinhole, and then there's 2 lines outside, go out in each direction. This is for a twisted pair, so we'll put the pin in between those 2 plaits, cloth stitch to cover it, and then just put 2 or 3 twists on, and a twisted pair goes in each direction to finish. And that's just to balance it up really. I just wanted to have it, that last plait, to be in effect right vertical in the centre there. And if I was taking it one side or the other, it wouldn't fall like that. So I'm now just going to bring both sides down, taking plaits in and throwing pairs out, and then we'll do the join at the end. And when you're taking the gold ones in from the trail like this, ideally if you can with your half stitches to split them up so that they're on opposing pairs when they come in. That means that when you come to throw them out, you can just throw them out as a pair, because they're split up. If you can't do that, you can just manipulate it by putting an extra twist or a cross on to get them so they're split up in the cloth stitch for a few rows. And they're less noticeable then when they're split up like that, as they've taken them in. Helps the threads grip them a little bit more for throwing them out as well. Two more pins before the join, so that's one more after this one. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there, so just about got time to get rid of the others. So one on this row and one on the next row. I'm going to leave this gold in for the hanging loops. It does give it an extra bit of sparkle, but it is an option to get rid of it before then. As I say, it depends which sort of thread you're using. This one's a really nice thread, and it's stayed on the bobbins, it's hardly ever jumped off, it's really behaved. Right, so we're now down to the join. I'll just have a quick look how many I've got on the other side. 1, 2, I've got 4 on the other side, so I need to get rid of another pair over there. At the last pinhole in the middle, we join the workers together with a cloth stitch and a twist. And put the pin up, and I just need to get rid of one more pair on the left. So that's that one gone. So now I'm down to 3 passives on each side plus the worker pair, which is what I want. Cover the pin and take the workers out to the respective sides for the last pin on the left and right, and put the pin up. And then the right one out to the right. And twist on and pin up. And then the 3 pairs of passives from each side, the 3 on the right are going to cloth stitch through the 3 on the left. So like you do for the start of a spider, you start in the middle, take the first one through 3 pairs, go back, take the next one through 3 pairs, and then the last one through 3 pairs. And then put the pin up between them, tension them up, and then I'll bring the workers through to meet and cover the pin in the centre. This means it covers the outside. You've left it there uncovered at the moment, but I bring it through, it covers that pin, and it will also cover the pin in the middle. So just cloth stitch the 2 together, then they've swapped sides. So you now have 4 pairs on the right, 4 pairs on the left. The 4 pairs will make a plait here, and this one will make a plait here, to however long you want the hanging loop. I mean, sometimes on some of the patterns I've put a pin in. You can put a pin in there if you want to aim for a pinhole. That's where you're going to aim for. Just cover cloth down a little bit. Just to give yourself something to aim for, and just plait to that length. And to plait, you plait with them in pairs. Just as you would normally plait. Oops. And because you're plaiting with them in pairs, it makes a little bit more of a thicker thread. Thicker plait, so it gives you a little bit more of a hanging loop to balance off the size of the piece of lace as well, and it grows quicker, which is really good. And by leaving this gold in, you can see that I've actually got a little bit of a twist of rope going on there. Gives it a little bit of a sparkle in the hanging loop. I think that's about long enough. Then you take one from either side, just lengthen those, take it over the top, cross them over, lift the bundle up and pass them underneath in opposite directions, bring them back to the top and just knot it over the top with a reef knot, and then do the same with the other side. Just a reef knot over there, left, right over left, left over right. That just holds it. I'm just going to zoom back in so you can see a little bit. That holds it. You make the other one the same, cut them off long, and then you'll do an overhand knot to join the 2 together. I'll show you that in a moment. We'll just do this other side. So again, do a plait. And most of my baubles are finishing this way, apart from the one we're going to do next, which is starting at the loop. But most of them, where they're finishing at this sort of point, this is the technique to actually finish them with. And there is a separate YouTube video on that if you want to see it again. You just keep checking the measurement of it. You can bring this one alongside to check it as well if you need to. Now if you're doing it with the glitter thread, I would also make sure that glitter thread's on the inside of it. I wouldn't use that to knot over the top because it's a bit stretchy, usually glitter thread is, and you don't want the knot that's holding it to be stretching. So lengthen it right over left and tie it, and I haven't taken it round, have I? So let's take it round and over the top and then knot it. Try again. Right over left, left over right. Then lengthen all the bobbins. You probably want about 4 inches to be comfortable. And once I've lengthened them, I'll zoom back out so you can see what I'm doing. This is the only bit I think you really need 2 pairs of hands for, but you can do it if you're on your own, and just have to be a little bit careful not to throw all your bobbins on the floor. Just zoom back out. So I will then make sure I smooth them down. Because I've got my pillow flat on here, we can actually see the bobbins. I just put them to one side. I've got a loop of about 4 inches, holding the end so that I get a nice cut end there. Move the bobbins out of the way, so without throwing them on the floor. Then do an overhand knot like that. Take that through the loop. And before you actually pull it up, get a needle or a pin and put that in the loop so that you can actually pull it up over those 2 knots. Then pull it up tight, and then you can just cut it off with maybe 1/4 inch at the top. And there we are, finished. Then obviously you've got to cut all of your bobbins off. Take your pins out, do a nice trim in there, and then you can take it off the pillow and it's ready for Christmas. And that gives you a nice little hanging loop. You can put a hook through it or whatever you like to hang it on your tree.